The mysterious canyon, a tale of survival and secrets. The blazing sun hung high over the desolate landscape, casting long shadows over jagged rocks and dry earth. The desert stretched endlessly, whispering tales of ancient secrets buried beneath layers of dust and stone. Linda wiped the sweat from her brow, her piercing green eyes scanning the horizon with determination. She had always been drawn to the unknown, to places that whispered promises of mystery and adventure. And today, that call had led her here, to the edge of a canyon that didn't exist on any map. Peter adjusted his backpack, the weight of their supplies pressing down on his shoulders. His rugged features were hardened by years of outdoor expeditions, but nothing he had experienced before compared to the eerie allure of this place. The canyon yawned before them, its depths shrouded in shadows, its walls carved with strange markings that defied explanation. "Are you sure about this, Linda?" Peter's voice was a low rumble, tinged with both excitement and caution. Linda flashed a daring smile. "When have I ever been unsure about an adventure?" With that, they descended into the unknown. The narrow path twisted and turned, forcing them to squeeze through crevices barely wide enough to accommodate their bodies. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the outside world fading into an oppressive silence. As they ventured deeper, the canyon walls seemed to close in, adorned with ancient petroglyphs that depicted scenes of strange rituals and creatures unlike anything they'd ever seen. Hours passed, marked only by the dwindling light and the growing sense of unease that settled over them. Suddenly, Linda stumbled upon something extraordinary, an entrance carved into the rock, hidden behind a cascade of ivy. Without hesitation, she pushed the foliage aside and stepped through, Peter close behind. They found themselves in a vast underground chamber, illuminated by beams of sunlight piercing through cracks in the ceiling. The walls shimmered with mineral deposits, and in the center of the room stood a colossal stone structure, resembling an ancient altar. Strange artifacts lay scattered around, remnants of a civilization lost to time. Peter approached the altar, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings. "This is incredible. But what is it?" Before Linda could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A deep, guttural roar echoed through the chamber, and shadows shifted unnaturally along the walls. They weren't alone. Out of the darkness emerged creatures unlike any they had ever seen, lithe, with elongated limbs and glowing eyes that reflected an otherworldly intelligence. The creatures moved with terrifying speed, surrounding them in an instant. Adrenaline surged through Linda's veins. She grabbed Peter's hand, pulling him toward a narrow passage on the other side of the chamber. They sprinted through the dark, their footsteps echoing as the creatures pursued them relentlessly. The passage led to a labyrinth of tunnels, each turn a desperate gamble for survival. They navigated by instinct, driven by sheer will and the primal urge to escape. The creatures were relentless, their screeches reverberating through the stone corridors. After what felt like an eternity, they burst into an open cavern. A river of luminescent water flowed through it, casting an eerie glow that revealed yet more ancient structures, bridges, statues, and towering obelisks inscribed with symbols that seemed to pulse with life. "We have to keep moving," Peter shouted, dragging Linda toward a narrow bridge that spanned the river. As they crossed, the creatures closed in. Peter fought them off with a makeshift torch, the flames casting monstrous shadows on the cavern walls. Linda spotted an ancient lever embedded in one of the obelisks. Without thinking, she pulled it. The ground shook violently. The bridge collapsed, taking the creatures with it into the churning waters below. Linda and Peter barely managed to cling to the edge, pulling themselves to safety as the cavern settled into an uneasy silence. Breathing heavily, they realized they had survived, but the canyon had not yet revealed all its secrets. The lever had triggered something. A hidden passage slowly opened before them, its depths promising more mysteries and dangers. Peter looked at Linda, his eyes filled with both fear and exhilaration. "Ready for the next part of the adventure?" Linda smiled, her spirit unbroken. "Always." And with that, they stepped into the darkness, unaware that their greatest challenge was still to come. The canyon was alive, and it had only just begun to play its hand.
the lost temple of Amazonia. The roar of the helicopter's blades echoed across the dense, unbroken expanse of the Amazon rainforest. Below, a sea of green, interrupted only by winding rivers, stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Dr. Ethan Parker, a world-renowned archaeologist, gripped the straps of his seatbelt tighter as the chopper swayed slightly, adjusting to the sudden change in wind patterns. He wasn't afraid, but he knew that this mission carried risks beyond anything he had ever faced. Beside him, Maria Alvarez, a seasoned explorer and former military guide, was scanning the treetops through her binoculars. The tension between the two was palpable. Maria had been skeptical of Ethan's plan from the start. She believed that the ancient temple they were searching for was merely a legend, one that had claimed the lives of many adventurers before them. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, lowering her binoculars and looking directly at him. Her sharp eyes reflected both concern and a hint of excitement. Ethan nodded. "The coordinates matched the description in the ancient texts. This temple holds the key to understanding one of the greatest lost civilizations in history. It's here, Maria. I can feel it." Maria shook her head, but a small smile tugged at her lips. She had been on enough expeditions to know that sometimes instinct mattered just as much as facts. Yet the stories of the lost temple of Amazonia, a mythical structure said to be hidden deep within the rainforest, were riddled with tales of curses, traps, and unexplained disappearances. The pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. "We're nearing the drop zone. 30 seconds until we land." Ethan adjusted his gear, checking his map and equipment one final time. Maria pulled her machete from its sheath, securing it to her belt. The two exchanged a glance, acknowledging the unspoken understanding that whatever lay ahead would demand every bit of their strength, skill, and wits. The helicopter descended into a small clearing, the rotor wash stirring up leaves and debris. As the skids touched down, Ethan and Maria jumped out, their boots sinking slightly into the soft, damp earth. The jungle was alive with the sounds of insects, birds, and the occasional distant growl of an unseen predator. "Good luck," the pilot called, giving them a thumbs up before lifting off into the air once more. The noise of the helicopter faded, leaving the two explorers standing alone in the heart of the Amazon, the jungle pressing in on all sides. Maria adjusted her backpack. "All right, Professor, lead the way." Ethan unfolded his map and compass, orienting himself in the direction indicated by the ancient documents he had spent years studying. The temple, if it existed, was deep within the forest, beyond the reach of modern technology and satellites. No one had ever returned from its rumored location, but Ethan was determined to be the first. They trekked through the jungle for hours, cutting through thick vines and wading across streams. The air was thick with humidity, and the oppressive heat drained their energy. But with each step, Ethan felt the pull of the temple grow stronger, as if some unseen force was guiding him. Suddenly, Maria stopped, holding up her hand. "Wait." Ethan froze, listening carefully. The jungle had gone eerily quiet. No birds, no insects, nothing but the sound of their own breathing. Maria's hand instinctively moved to her machete, her eyes scanning the dense foliage. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan saw a flicker of movement, a shadow darting between the trees. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Maria nodded, her face tense. "We're not alone." Before either of them could react, a figure emerged from the underbrush, moving with the stealth of a predator. Clad in dark, weathered clothing, the man's face was painted with tribal markings, and in his hands was a blowgun aimed directly at them. Ethan raised his hands slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "We're not here to harm anyone. We're just explorers." The man narrowed his eyes, his blowgun unwavering. Just as Maria was about to draw her machete, another figure appeared, a woman, similarly dressed, though her expression was less hostile. She spoke quickly in a language Ethan didn't understand, but her tone was calm, almost authoritative. The man lowered his weapon but did not relax. The woman stepped forward, addressing them in broken English. "You seek the temple. Many have come. All have failed." Ethan nodded. "We know the risks, but we believe we can find it." The woman regarded him for a long moment, before glancing at Maria, who still had her hand on her machete. The jungle is not kind to outsiders. If you wish to survive, you must trust us. Maria gave Ethan a sideways glance. This is your call. Ethan nodded. We don't have a choice. If they know the way to the temple, we need their help. Reluctantly, Maria lowered her weapon, and the woman gestured for them to follow. Their new guides led them deeper into the jungle, moving with a grace and speed that Ethan and Maria struggled to match. As they walked, the woman explained that her people were the descendants of those who had built the temple centuries ago, tasked with protecting its secrets. The temple is not just stone and gold, she said. It is alive. It tests those who enter. Many do not return. Ethan's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. This was more than he had ever anticipated. The lost Temple of Amazonia was not just an archaeological site. It was a living entity, one that had claimed the lives of countless adventurers over the centuries. After several hours of trekking, the jungle began to change. The trees grew taller, their roots twisting through the ground like ancient veins. Strange markings appeared on the trunks, symbols that Ethan recognized from his research. They were close. Suddenly the jungle parted, revealing a massive stone structure hidden beneath the canopy. The temple was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Its walls were covered in intricate carvings, depicting gods, animals, and scenes of sacrifice. Vines draped over its surface, but the architecture was unmistakably advanced, far beyond what was thought possible for the time period. Maria let out a low whistle. Well, I'll be damned. Ethan's hands trembled as he approached the entrance, a large stone archway framed by two statues of jaguars. The air around the temple felt heavy, charged with an energy that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. This is it, he whispered. The lost Temple of Amazonia. But as they stepped closer, the ground beneath their feet shifted. A rumbling sound echoed from deep within the temple, and the statue's eyes began to glow with an eerie light. We've triggered something, Maria muttered, drawing her machete. The woman who had led them shook her head gravely. The temple has awakened. Now, it will test you. Ethan's pulse quickened as the temple doors slowly creaked open, revealing a dark, foreboding passageway. Whatever awaited them inside would push them to their limits, both physically and mentally. There was no turning back now. With a deep breath, Ethan stepped forward into the shadows, Maria close behind him. The adventure of a lifetime had just begun.